Hello. So I'm super excited to talk about this topic today. So reactivity is one of those things that I think most clients call me for reactivity issues. I would say my client base is pretty split between puppies and dogs that are overreactive. I really like to dive into this. I'm really passionate about it. I've been focusing on reactivity in dogs for the last almost 10 years in my career. And every year I learn a little bit more about how to best help our dogs navigate this. So this webinar is like part two in the so far two-part webinar series on overreactive dogs. I'm sure there will be a part three in the future, but this is essentially the next chapter. This is taking all of the learning that I've accrued in the last few years and kind of bringing it into that overreactive dog concept and how can we help our dogs navigate this world a little bit easier. We're going to talk about your dog's legs in action, which is essentially bringing applied ethology into the conversation, which is going to be pretty cool. So like I said, it's taking the education that I've developed over the last couple of years and applying it to reactive dogs so that we can get away from that more traditional training model of just shutting the behavior down and not really coming up with a long-term solution, but more just kind of tackling the behavior when it occurs. I want to think about how can we support our dogs in the long run and help them be more emotionally regulated when they're going about their everyday life in their environment. So the breakdown of our webinar today, we are going to review part one of the overreactive dog series. I'm going to do just a really brief overview of this because you can watch all of that content separately. Most of it is still very accurate and still the protocols that I follow today. But like I said, this is kind of taking it to the next level. So we're going to build on a lot of the skills that we cover in that level or in that part one. We also are going to break down the legs model. So I mentioned this is an applied ethology model. This is actually developed by Kim Brophy. So we're going to kind of break down how these different components impact our dog's reactive behavior, why we need to take those into account, why that's important, and how it kind of makes it almost like a quick fix in a lot of cases when we're dealing with reactivity, because sometimes we get so far down the rabbit hole of diving into a training plan that we're actually missing some glaring issues over here. So this is going to be really helpful for adjusting certain things in our day-to-day life to make it way easier to move forward with a training program with our reactive dogs. And then some goals for an overreactive dog. We're going to break those down. I have three main goals that I like to work on. Again, it's getting away from that traditional kind of more obedience style skill set and turning into more of an emotional skill set. So we're going to kind of switch, how does your dog actually feel in these situations, not necessarily what is your dog doing in these situations, because what we found is a lot of times the behavior actually follows the emotion. So if we can address the emotional health of the dog in these scenarios, then it's going to be a lot easier to address the behavioral health, and we're not going to feel like we're kind of chasing our tail a little bit in some of these situations. So I think these goals are going to really help you prioritize what to focus on when you're working with your reactive dog. And then we're going to end up with 10 top tips for overreactive dog owner. I find this to be kind of a silly play on words a little bit because it can be talking about the overreactive dog and some top tips for dealing with them and their behavior, but also for the overreactive dog owner, because often our behavior is going to be a major influencer of our dog's behavior, and it's really challenging for a lot of owners to be calm and relaxed and supportive and our best kind of training self, our best teaching self, when we have all of the baggage that comes along with being with a reactive dog out in the world. A lot of times we get really reactive ourselves too. So we're going to talk about how to work on kind of the dyad, the communication between the two of you, you and your dog, and how you can best support your dog's behavior, but also how you can best support your own behavior. And all of these things are going to kind of swirl in together to make it, again, just an easier, more efficient training process so that we don't have to get into the nitty-gritty of specific obedience skills and our mechanics and our protocols and all of this training information that sometimes seems a bit more challenging and a bit more tedious. I want to work on it from kind of more this holistic standpoint of how do we best support ourselves, best support our dogs, and help everybody in the picture not be overreactive and to be emotionally regulated and comfortable in a variety of situations that we deal with every day.